Hello and welcome to the first in a new series of podcasts about football in the past. The very distant past, with a special, in the loosest sense of the word, guest star Mima.
Hello.
And that was her ad-libbing, as she said she would do, and come up with a great intro, but thanks, ma'am. Okay, so the first episode is going to be about Liverpool and St John. Ian St John, of course, was one of Bill Shankly's big early signings. Shanks told the board him and Ron Yates would win the FA Cup for Liverpool, and St John duly scored the winning goal in the final, the first time LFC ever won the FA Cup. So, what were your thoughts on Ian St John's time with Liverpool then, ma'am?
This is where we have a bit of a deafening silence because, when I said let's talk about St John.
Yes, I do remember that because that's why we called it St John.
Yeah, but apart from the fact he was bald and Scottish, I don't know anything about that fella. What I was meaning was like being in the St John's, the football, like St John's ambulance.
Right. So Ian St John wasn't in the. It wasn't named after him or anything then.
No, I don't know. Don't think so. No, it was before his time.
Was it? Okay, just wondering because he was before my time, you see. So I only remember him off the telly, Satan Greavesy.
Oh, okay.
So if it wasn't that St John, what's
St John Ambulance Brigade. Right, I was going to talk about like the St John's Ambulance Brigade, and it links to football.
Better do.
No, it does.
It doesn't matter if it's tenuous because we don't mind tenuous.
It does. If I just tell you that, like, when my mum and dad met, my mum was a nurse in the St John's Ambulance, and her dad used to run the St John's Ambulance in Bootle. Okay.
Right.
So my mum used to always say to me, Dad, you should join. It's good. You help people, and it's like voluntary work and all of that sort of thing. The old fella.
Yeah.
He weren't that keen, really. And then when he met my granddad for the first time, and they got talking, my granddad told him that about going to all the football games, and it wasn't just that, like, you got into the wrestling and everything, but when he found out that not only did you get in the football free, but you probably had the best seat in the house.
Yeah, just in front of the crowd, didn't you?
Absolutely.
Sat on the benches, yeah,
and you weren't crowd control.
What happened to those benches?
I don't know.
Yeah, because you actually got to watch the game, don't you?
Yeah, you were actually watching the game, and depending on what was wrong with someone, if like it was something really serious and there was a goal scoring opportunity, well, they could wait, wouldn't they? Because they could like be dead by then, so there was no point in rushing.
Yeah, no point rushing.
So
football's more important anyway.
So yeah, that's how my dad got into the St John's, which meant he got into all the football games free. So that was what I was meaning, really.
Oh, that's okay. We'll go with that because that meant that all you kids had to get involved in it, didn't it? And it actually gave you your first acting role.
Oh yeah, we were all conscripted into the volunteered to join the St John's and that, and yeah, it was like being in Casualty. No, honestly,
but with better acting and of course
makeup.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was good. It was really good because you got to be the casualty in the thing, and depending on what they were going to test people on, for the new recruits, what they were going to test people on, you got to have like all the makeup on. So sometimes you had like a big hole in your head, and other times you had like
that where your brain should be?
Something like that. The other time you had like a bone stuck out of your leg or something like that, and sometimes you were unconscious, so you just had to sleep.
Sounds like fun, yeah.
No, it was boring. It was really boring. Honestly, you used to have to liven it up. So if somebody like went to do anything to you, you could do a bit of acting, like screaming and saying "ow, ow, don't, oh, ow," and all of that. But sometimes you felt a bit sorry for them. No, you did. You felt a bit sorry for them.
You mean if you got some divvy, they didn't have a clue?
Yeah. Then you'd try and do the eyes, to like look at what they were supposed to be picking up. Things like that. But also, if there was one that you didn't like or looked particularly terrified, then you'd really scream and so on with them, and sometimes you'd even made them cry. That was really good.
I'm sure they really appreciated that.
Well, you have to get your entertainment where you can. You're there all day, just like sat there. You can't like go out the park halfway
How
through
old
because
were
you've got
you?
a bone stuck out your leg. Well, you
Bit
know,
of plasticine.
yeah, it was plasticine and a chicken bone, but they weren't supposed to know that. So how old was I? Probably from the age of about 6 that started till I
Oh,
was about 14. And then it was like,
oh,
forget
so
that,
you
I'm
wouldn't
not
have had
doing it.
TV to watch or anything anyway, so you'd be
Yeah,
used to
but
making your own
we
entertainment.
only had 2 channels.
You had that many channels? I didn't even know
Yeah,
TV existed back then.
yeah, and on ITV during the day. It was just programmes for the Welsh. I'm not sure what that's about, but it was programmes for the Welsh.
Well,
So really, no, you needed to like
never knew
entertain
that.
yourself and that. So
Old people never had any entertainment,
no,
did you?
no. But the funny thing is, when me mum and me dad were like first going together, and me dad got this like thing, great, join the St John's, going the football. But one of the first ones he did, bear in mind it was with his future father-in-law as well. They were at the Grand National at Aintree, and a jockey come over and says to me dad, say nothing, but will you put this at 2 bob or whatever it was on such and such a horse for me? So my dad went and put the bet on for him, and then went and told the other St John's blokes what had happened. So they emptied their pockets, every penny they had between them, and they put it on the horse. Anyway, the horse lost by a mile. Don't think it even finished. So no one was very happy with the owl fella because they'd all lost all their money. But when he went and saw the jockey and said to him, your horse was miles away, he went, oh no, that wasn't a bet for the horse to win. That was to lengthen the odds on my horse.
Oh, but that went down well.
Oh, it went down well. It was even better because they had to walk home from Aintree because they couldn't afford to put any petrol in the ambulance. So the St John's ambulance had to stay overnight at Aintree Racecourse.
Just makes me wonder what they'd have done if there had been an emergency and they'd had to take a casualty home.
Well, that's only round the corner to Walton Hospital. They'd just like give them a piggyback
Stretcher
or something.
bearers and carrying
Yeah,
it.
they'd be alright, no problem.
Well, in those days, they were just drivers anyway, so all they had to do
Yeah.
was carry a stretcher, so they'd
Yeah.
been well practiced, I bet.
Well, they weren't, because they had their like full kit.
Yeah,
That
they
they used to
weren't
have.
like nowadays, paramedics,
No.
which obviously is your dad's, was one of the things
Yeah.
your dad brought in.
In the end, yeah.
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 But I remember him, speaking of the NC racer, I remember when he told me about him and Uncle Teddy, because like obviously his brother had got roped in as well, as did everyone.
They weren't roped in, they were going the football.
Yeah, but you know what I mean, they got joined in then, should we say. And they go on NC races, they're about to park the St John's ambulance in the ambulance spot that's being kept for them. Just about to park, next thing, this bloody big flash limo just dive in ahead of them. And so they like slammed on the brakes, like, look, Grandad says to Teddy, you're going to have to go and tell him to move that. So he's like, what, the car? And there's like all these security guards are coming over at this point. He's saying, I'm not telling him, you're going to have to go and tell him. So my Grandad gets out, and there's all these cars behind honking their horns because they're waiting to go, and he can't get past because he can't park. So he goes over, taps on the window, says window winds down. He was dead impressed because it was electric windows. You didn't see those in those days. And the driver looks out, says, yeah. He says, you're going to have to move your car, mate. This is the ambulance spec. You're going to have to move over, give us some room to get the ambulance in. And the driver just looks at him and says, do you know who I have in the back? This is the Aga Khan in here. There's no way I'm moving. You're going to have to go somewhere else. And my granddad says, and I'm the Queen of Sheba. Now move your fucking car because we're putting the ambulance in here. At this point, the back window opens up and the Aga Khan sticks his head out the window. So and tells him to move it as well.
Oh, perfect.
Actually moved it. He said apologised
Well,
when he
quite
found
right
out
too.
what happened. But like,
It was the ambulance spec, wasn't it? They had a game to get to or a horse race to
it
see.
was the 80, yeah, it was
Yeah.
80 races.
So they had to move on to that.
But you had a lot of equipment as well, didn't you, with the St John's? Because you had things like spoons
Yeah,
and a safety pin.
yeah.
So what was
every
on earth
first
was
aid
that
kit?
about?
No, every first aid kit consisted of, right, a couple of spoons, couple
they
of bags
special
of sugar
spoons?
that you got usually from Sayers when
Were
you had a
they
cup
also
of tea.
from the spoons also from Sayers when you had a cup of tea? Did you take them? Were they part
No,
of the?
no, they all said specific lines. We were in Bootle,
Yeah,
so
everything came off the cruise
Everton
ships.
said for them,
Yeah.
yeah. Everton said either that or Cunard,
Yeah.
because that was always the big joke,
Whenever they had
wasn't
a
it?
sale.
That was a big joke, that wasn't it? What does your husband do? He works for Ford. He said, mine works for Cunard. And said, yeah, so does he. Anyway, so everything was Cunard or like Starline or something like that. So no, you had a couple of spoons, you had your bags of sugar. Sometimes you had a triangular bandage, but if somebody used it, then you were a bit stuck for that for a while.
So what were the spoons and the safety pins for? Because they don't seem like... I suppose the pins for the bandage, maybe?
Well, you could use it for that, but really what it was for is to like pin a tongue to a cheek.
A tongue to it? No.
Yeah. If someone was, say, having a fit, right, the first thing you got to do is make sure they don't block their airway with their tongue.
Yeah.
Swallow their tongue. So if you didn't have the spoon, you couldn't put your hand in. They'd bite your hand off.
You didn't have like... Because they have like these things they stick... Like a tongue holder
like a
down
shoe-on
thing. Yes, like
thing.
a shoe-on thing.
You didn't have them then. It wasn't health and safety like you've got now. You didn't like rip a bag. Now you'd have that thing where you can't give them the kiss of life, can you? Because you'd have to have a plastic thing that goes in first. Can you imagine that then?
Oh.
If you got a good-looking bloke that looked a bit queasy, he was on the deck, kiss of life, before he'd even realised he wasn't well. But no, the safety pin, you'd pin
That's sexual harassment, you know that.
I know, but it didn't count then.
Oh,
It was before Me Too.
Yeah.
Or Me As Well, or whatever it is. It was before that. So they used to do that, yeah, and pin their tongue to the cheek. But if you only had an ingrown toenail, you wouldn't do that.
But if you pin their tongue to the cheek, doesn't that run the risk of like septicemia and stuff?
I don't think we had that then. I honestly don't think
Are
we
you sure?
did. We had
Because
nothing
quite a
like
lot
that.
of quite a lot of people died of that in ancient times.
No,
That's one of the most common diseases.
I did know someone that was doing the kiss of life, and then they realised he'd lost their chewy. That was. But that was okay because they knew the Heimlich manoeuvre, so it wasn't too big a problem. What's the matter with you?
No, nothing.
No, seriously, the bit about pinning the
So they didn't
cheek.
think to take the Chewy out.
Well, no, I mean, we're in a life and death situation. You don't have time to think. You just act on
Alex
instinct.
Ferguson would have just thrown it on the pit.
He wouldn't. He wouldn't. I'm telling you, he wouldn't. You don't think, honestly. That tongue in the tongue tied to the cheek. Honest to God, goggle that because it's true.
What? Goggle?
Yeah, goggle it. That internet thing that you do.
Google? You mean Google?
Is it?
It's double O as in book. As in moon, you know.
I feel a bit soft.
Google. It's alright, don't worry, I'll edit that bit out
Okay,
later.
take that
All
out.
the stupid bits,
Yeah.
all the bits where you look stupid, I'll take out and we'll just have a blank podcast later.
And if it I do look a bit daft, say I'm all Susie.
Yeah, because she won't be listening anyway.
That's right.
And he did always take his job seriously, mine granddad, didn't he? Because I remember you speaking about the kit. Do you remember what he brought to the swimming party when you did the swimming party for me as a kid?
That was your birthday, wasn't
Yeah.
it? You were, what were you, 9, 10, something like that, yeah. And I went to book the swimming pool, and the guy says that I had to have someone with a first aid certificate before I could hire the pool. Or pay them. I think it was £10, but like you're 70. What are you now? 65. So it was a long time ago. So I think it was like £10 in old money.
No, you're just tight. That's what it was.
Or whatever it was. Anyway, I said, and like all our first aid certificates had lapsed, but me dad obviously got his. So rung him up and said, "This is what's happening like." And he said, for a tenner, I'll do it for a fiver. It's like Triss's birthday. So, anyway, we agreed that. But I couldn't believe it on the day. On the day, he turned up and he had full recess
Well,
kit.
he had to ring. He had to drive an estate car so we could fit all the
He
equipment
had
in.
full
Seats were
resuscitation
down.
kit. He had all the boxes, oh my god, couldn't believe it. It took 4 blokes to carry all the stuff over to the swimming pool, and I wouldn't mind, but you weren't popular then either. I think there was only 3 kids that had come to your party.
And you had to bribe 2 of them.
Yeah, well, give
And
them
the other one
sweets.
was me.
Yeah. So unbelievable.
I mean, but he was very much a stickler for that, like, you know, doing things properly. Unless chips were going cold when he was, and he had to stick the lights on to
you
get
put
them
your
home before
lights
they
on
got
for
cold.
that, and like
Or-
the siren, you'd hear it coming down the street, and you'd say, "Oh, there's the owl fella's chips getting cold."
I mean, he was so serious about his job. He even allowed himself to be taken hostage, didn't he, during Toxteth riots?
Oh my god! Yeah. There was the Toxteth riots were in the 80s, I think they were. That's something else to goggle.
Yeah, I
But-
was going to say I'll have to look at that because that's before my time. You know, before most people's time now.
Yeah, it was in the 80s. It
Well,
wasn't
Robbie
just.
Fowler wrote about it in his book.
Did he?
Yeah,
Is he that old?
didn't realise.
Must be. Well, he lived around there though, didn't he?
Yeah, he was a talkie lad.
Anyway, the whole of like half of Britain was burning. It wasn't just Toxteth, but it started there, and obviously things were being burned and stuff like that. And they had all the barricades across the street, a bit like Les Miserables, and everyone
I
was man.
wouldn't know. I've not seen Les
Never mind. Google it.
Miserables.
Do you hear
That one.
Google.
Yeah, you're getting good
Do you
at
hear
this. Yeah,
that? Google it.
learning.
Yeah, Google it. So anyway, they were all manning the barricades, and they wanted to evacuate. Is that the right word? Evacuate.
Yes.
Okay. Remember that because of bowels.
It's, well, I was
Anyway.
thinking you'd remember it because it was what you did during the war.
No, in the first aid kit, there was
Are you-
one of your training would be about evacuating bowels.
I really
But
don't
not
want
with the
I
safety
don't
pin.
think we need to know
You
how
didn't-
you did that.
No, you didn't use the safety
I
pin for
don't
that.
think we need to know about evacuating the
Okay.
bowels.
So they had to evacuate
Unless
this.
it relates to football.
Probably has a few times, you know, to be fair. But anyway, they wanted to evacuate these old folk from the old folks' home because the building next door had caught fire. And of course, they wouldn't let the ambulance through the barricades because they said when you get past it, like the back's gonna open and all this SWAT teams and everything would come out.
Did they have SWAT in those days?
No, he didn't, but I've seen programmes on telly. I don't know
Oh.
what they were called.
You were just getting excited.
I just getting
Yeah.
excited. But they used to wear like crash helmets.
Yeah.
So anyway,
They didn't even have guns though those days, did they? They just had those silly club
guns,
things.
absolutely not. No,
What did they have? Truncheons. They
you'd had
didn't
a
have even
truncheon,
proper.
You had a truncheon, a tin hat, and like a bin lid or something,
Yeah.
whatever that was. Yeah, you had that. So anyway, they were worried about them coming over. So the owl fella went to negotiate with some of the people on the barricades and said, me and like me mate John, we'll come over your side of the barricade and we'll stay there as
Was that
hostages.
John Murphy?
John Murphy, yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
his
he's a
son
good lad.
married our Susie. Didn't
Yeah,
he? Yeah, told me.
absolutely.
Yeah, need to mention that because he's got a big family, so we might be able to. So we can send that around to them so they can all listen.
And his
get a
name's
few
Murphy,
listeners.
so
yeah.
you might get some Irish
Yeah,
in.
increase the audience
Yeah,
there from 2 to
absolutely.
3.
Oh, yeah. 2.
Yeah, sometimes get 2 people that
Oh.
claim they listen. Anyway,
That's
it's
the
probably
most-
more. It's probably 1 really, but the other just says they listen. I think
Are they like your pretend friends?
only friends. Yeah,
Imaginary
Yeah.
friends. Oh, God
Yeah.
love you. Nothing's changed. Anyway, so...
But even my imaginary friends wouldn't play
No,
with
they
me.
don't like you. No, no. I know that. I can see why as well. Anyway, so this is what they agreed to do. So my dad and John Murphy went yon side of barricade, being held hostage. But one of the fellas there like had a samurai sword and said to him, "You know you're gonna get hit if the police burst out the ambulance." The other fella, oh, he was all right. He was all right. He wanted to be a hero, to be fair. Anyway, so he gets the other side of the barricade, and guess what he had in his pocket? Go on, you'll know.
I know because I know Grandad, and he always went everywhere with a pack of playing cards, no doubt.
Yeah, because in the past he was like a magician and a ventriloquist.
But you know, because he chopped his thumb off. That was why he ended his career. But that was
Yeah.
sawing a lady in half, wasn't it? Doing
Yeah.
that trick.
Yeah, he
Only
was
only
obviously
he could saw his own bloody thumb off.
obviously not very good at it.
Yeah.
So anyway, out comes the cards, and for the first 5 or 10 minutes, like these lads are engrossed, and then I think it ended up with them saying, "Can you just let the SWAT team in because
Yeah.
we're done
Was that
for
what
here?"
ended the Toxteth riots?
I
Because they
think it
just said,
was.
because they
They
said
just said
they'd make him come
yeah,
back every night
yeah.
and play cards with
either
them.
do that or
Yeah.
we're sending George in, and if we really want to finish you, he'll bring Honest, the ventriloquist dummy. That'll sort you.
Horace, you used to call me that for years when I
Anyway,
was a kid.
he got a medal,
Yeah.
He got a medal for doing that.
Oh, and say he got he turned down MBE or OBE for that
whatever.
one. You can't think. I mean, all he did
But he
was
didn't.
all he did was do cards.
I was going to say, all he did was bore all the rioters, so they gave up in the end.
Well, it's probably worth the medal, to be
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was him and his honour at the Toxteth riot, being held hostage. You don't know many people that have been held hostage. Don't look like that.
To be honest, I can't. I was just thinking, there's not many. Probably nobody listening knows anyone. Both of them want to know anyone.
I've thought of one. We can do this brilliant, segue back into football, because I think we've strayed a bit here, haven't we?
Oh yeah, we should do about football.
So we'll
actually.
segue. This one time, my dad was at the match, right? And this is absolutely true. My dad's at the match and he sat behind the goal at the cop end, right? So he sat there and somebody, I don't even know who it was, somebody whacked this screamer. Tommy Lawrence, the flying pig. That's something else to Google or Google or whatever it is. He was the flying pig. Right, because he was so fat. It was unbelievable.
The pictures.
Anyway, he went full tilt, missed the ball, but luckily it just missed the post. But the owl fella to the day he died says he has no idea what possessed him. He went full tilt from a sitting start, full stretch, and caught the ball. Full stretch. But the cop behind him was all broke into St. John, and he was taking a bow and everything. Honest to God, he thought he was.
Did he get his cards out?
He thought he was it. No, but it's a bit sad, really, because he dashed home and didn't have a mobile or out like that. So he dashed home, and we had to go door to door to tell all the neighbours. And he dashed up to his mum and everything like that to tell everyone, watch Match of the Day tonight, because he was convinced. He thought he'd be the star. And he was absolutely convinced. Got everyone. No such thing as a video. But what he did have, he had this old camera. And he set that up, ready to take a picture of himself on the telly and everything. You know, the little black and white telly. It's all set up we went anyway. To cut a long story short, he wasn't even on it. They'd cut him out. How tight is that? But it gets better, because the following year, I think it was, or maybe even the same year, but it wasn't that long after, that our Billy, my brother, his own son, talk about upstaging his dad. His own son was in a feature film. He was in a main film called Goal about the World Cup. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
66.
Because that's something else you can Google.
No, I have heard of the 66 World Cup. Do you know, I know you're going to find this hard to believe, but sometimes they mention it on the telly.
I don't even know.
Can you believe it? Hard to believe. You probably not noticed, because they do it so subtly and so rarely when England are playing.
But they played one game at Anfield, and it was Brazil versus someone.
Was it Uruguay or Portugal, someone like that?
I can't remember. But anyway, it was absolutely foul, because Pele, I was going to say Pepe then. Pele, they absolutely battered him. I mean, they chopped him, and you used to be able to do stuff like that then and get away with it. They absolutely battered him, and in the end, the Brazilian manager, he wouldn't have been the manager then, but whatever he was.
Head coach,
something. Anyway, he took Pepe off. Pepe?
Who the hell
Who's
Pepe?
Pepe?
Nicholas Pepe plays for Arsenal now.
Oh, I wouldn't know that, would I? So anyway, they took Pele off for his own safety. And you see a little first aider lad, he would have been 14, 13 at the time. He come running over with a blanket, put it round Pele. Pele started crying, so my brother started
That's how
crying.
you can tell our Billy's
and
crying.
He goes off with Pele, rubbing his back with the blanket round him, and he made it a star in the film goal.
It's one of the central footage. I've never seen it.
When we went to see it at the pictures, I thought my dad was going to walk out. If you were in a normal family, you'd say, "Oh my God, there's our Billy." My dad was livid. He wanted his bit on.
I'm surprised they didn't put that in.
See, that's St John and football, isn't it?
I think that's close enough. But it does remind me of that time our John was on the radio with John Conte. I know that's not football.
Man.
I mean, for those who don't know, he was a Scouser. He was the former light heavyweight champion
Get him
of the
to
world.
goggle it.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't say that. Just look him up. He's famous.
Yeah. Look him
famous
up.
Scouser. Anyway, John Conte,
John
Liverpool
Conte.
fan.
He was on the radio with me brother, and bear in mind, he was he heavyweight or something?
Light heavy.
Light heavy.
Yeah.
Whatever.
No, was he?
I have no idea.
Middle?
Goggle it. He was on with me brother on a chat, and John Conte suddenly announced to me brother, who's 5'3", 4, 5,
and he's grown
in
and
his stilettos, because he wears them. Anyway, he turns round and says to me
Just
brother,
about to ask, did he wear them?
he turns round and says to me brother, "Do you know I used to be frightened of you?" And our Stump says, "Frightened of me?" And he went, "Yeah, I was terrified of you." He said, "I used to stand sort of next to you in the cop, and you'd hear all the opposing fans chanting, 'You're going home in an ambulance.'" He said, "You never once flinched." He said, "It was years later I found out your dad was the first aider who used to give you the lift up and down." That's true as well.
Yeah, that is true. You can look that one up if you don't believe us. I'm sure. What was the show called?
Oh, I think it was called something like Interesting, Very Interesting.
Which doesn't sound right with our John on,
No,
really.
that's so. I think it was
ironic
misnamed.
naming.
Yeah,
Ironic naming
yeah.
that.
That's probably why they took it off. Because it wasn't interesting, and it certainly wasn't very interesting.
Well, what do you expect?
So we've gone neatly now into being in the St John's.
I think
You see
we've pretty much finished then, haven't we, on that one?
about St John's. Yeah, but I've got loads more. We haven't really talked about football.
Oh yeah, football. Yeah.
So we're gonna.
We'll have to do another one next week. We'll actually talk about football maybe next time. Maybe.
We'll talk about what it was like being a girl going to football.
Oh God, that's scary. God. Just even the thought of that, because there's probably some really scary stuff that happened.
Yeah, but they'll want to know about me being in the bath with the Liverpool players, won't they? But we will save that.
We'll save
We'll
that one.
save that.
Yeah, we'll save that one for next time to
Yeah.
to keep you listening, both of you.
Yeah.
Maybe even 3 of you if we're lucky. The Murphys have heard about it. We might even get 4 or 5.
No
Because
way.
they're quite a big family, the Murphys,
Yeah.
aren't they? There's a few of them around the world.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that brings us to the end of our first ever episode of a new podcast. We're going to call it Listen with Mother for some reason. Do you know what? I know why you wanted to call it that now. I remember when I was a kid, when we first got a video player, do you say about video player? These days, you think, video player, what's that? But they were new, so yeah, they were new, they were new things. And it was the size of a dining table, should we say, roughly. It was a huge thing, and it only had, just one tape you put in. You didn't have a proper remote control. It had a wire to it. So you
got it
couldn't,
cheap.
yeah, you had to,
Got
you
it
couldn't
cheap.
go very far away. You couldn't even sit on the chair. You had to get up to switch it over because the remote didn't
Yeah,
stretch.
but we got it
remember?
cheap because it was Betamax.
And that was because that was what you had kids for in those days, so someone to turn over the TV and set the video for you, wasn't it? Yeah.
Look at yourself.
But yeah, one of the first things you did was get a video out from the videos, because in those days you could rent out videos.
Yeah.
Wasn't like
Blockbuster.
Netflix or anything.
Blockbuster.
I don't think they'd even started then, had they? Might have
I've
been.
no idea. God
But
bless.
something like that, yeah. And you went and got a video out called watch with mother and
That's
said,
right.
"You'll love this."
Yeah, Andy
This is
Pandy.
what I had to watch as a kid. Now, bear in mind, by this point, they didn't come out till I was, video players didn't come out till I was about 13, 14.
Yeah.
And she's making me watch things like
Andy Pandy, the
Andy
wooden
Pandy,
tops,
the wooden tops,
Flower Pot Men, Flobble Up.
and she's loving it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
That's
if
great.
if that smells, I'll be you.
Flobble Up.
Yeah, that's the old gag from that one, isn't it? Bill and Ben in the bath.
Oh, I don't know.
And Bill says to Ben, "Blah blah blah," and Ben says to him, "Blah blah blah," and Bill says, "Blah blah blah," and Ben says to him, "If that smells, I'll be you."
Oh, that's horrible.
That's what they were like.
That's horrible.
I mean, they were just weird things. Anyway, she made me watch them as a kid, and it's the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. And she was sat in trance.
No.
Muffin the
No.
Mule. I mean, that's illegal in some countries.
Muffin the Mule. No, I think.
What's the other one? Seaman Stains and all that. Captain
No,
Pugwash.
that was in the Black Pig, Captain Pugwash. Yeah, Seaman Stains and Masturbate, and we didn't even know that was rude.
Yeah.
It was they got so past us. It's different now. We were nice.
Oh, you were about 25.
Yeah, still never got it. Still never got it.
Anyway, that's why she's chosen to call it Listen with Mother, because she wanted to remind herself of those programs that she so loved.
Yeah, can you
which
thank
I'm sure you'll all.
Can you thank me for?
So now you
on?
can. I've given you something to listen to. Look up on YouTube if you've heard of that, man. YouTube.
YouTubey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you look
Got
that
it.
up, have a look at Andy Pandy and that, and you'll see what
Wooden
hell I had
tops.
to suffer through as my childhood, being made to watch that stuff.
I'm telling you now, if they look that up, the very biggest spotty dog that was on the wooden tops will go, wait you hear this, viral. Get in.
I don't think it'll work like that. If that one person that's listening this
I
far,
think that's a boom mic drop.
Oh God, I don't even know what to say now. I think we're just gonna call it there. Take care and thanks to both of you for listening. Bye bye.
Bye.